Hey guys. Well, good Lord. My hair's getting worse each stream, I think. Hey Dirk. Hey Darren. Hey Texas. And Texas says, I've got cranberry pies. Um, so he's continuing the amusing alterations to rainbow eyes, which I love because this is like, it's really, I keep trying to change my layout and it keeps wanting to do another layout. I don't know why. But anyways, um before I get started with the topic of at hand, which is going to be week 3 of Argento versus Fulci. I know you guys are really excited about it. We've got one more week of Argento versus Fulci. Just one more week, guys, because I ran out of Fulci movies, basically, because unfortunately, Fulci passed away in like 96 or so. And Argento, of course, is still around, and Argento got a chance to make many more movies than Fulci did. I mean, horror and Giallo type movies, anyway. So, before we get started with that, I did want to kind of show what I got in today. I told you guys I was getting 3 4Ks. I honestly did not expect them to come in today. And Amazon made good on that deal. So I did get the Friday the 13th 4K. I started watching it during my lunch break today. Um, yeah, dark rainbow eyes would be kind of trippy. Um, I I didn't get all the way through it, of course, because I only have an hour long lunch period, and by the time I got my lunch fixed, and did a few other things that needed to be done, there wasn't as much time to devote to a 90-minute movie as I would have liked. But in any event, I did get to watch the beginning of it. And in my opinion, I think it looks amazing. If you're a fan of the Friday the 13th films and you have the ability to watch it in 4K, I say pick this sucker up because I think right now it's $20, 19.99. Might as well say $20, which is relatively cheap for a 4K. Um, so I would say if you're a fan of the series, definitely pick it up. The only thing I was disappointed in, and of course this is Paramount, is the fact that there is no Dolby Atmos sound on this damn thing. Why didn't Paramount shell out the extra bucks? Oh, wait a minute, it's Paramount. I remember now. Paramount doesn't give a shit. I mean, they put it out on 4K. They probably think, geez Louise, is that good enough for you? We're not going to give you Dolby Atmos sound as well. Darren, you say, is there any different extras to the Scream Factory Blu-ray? Actually, Darren, I don't believe there are. I kind of was trying to compare. It has the Lost Tales from Camp Blood and the Friday the 13th Chronicles, Secrets Gore Galore behind the gore. Uh, it does say Friday the 13th Reunion in HD. Now that I'm trying to remember if that was on the Scream Factory release, but I think basically, that fresh cut stuff is on here. The commentary with Sean Cunningham with cast and crew, that's the uncut version only. Um, so I would say probably not, unless I am wrong about, the reunion not being on one of the other releases. I bought the box set too, Texas, but I couldn't help myself. I'm a big Friday the 13th fan, and the price was right. I mean, I don't think 19.99 is too much for me to pay for it, but I totally understand. There's probably more than just you, I would imagine, Texas, that bought that damn Blu-ray settings like, I ain't doing this again. But you better believe that eventually they'll come out with a 4K box set. Who wants to place bets on that? Um, so Dirk, you say I canceled my order because I got to thinking I bet a steelbook is around the corner, maybe next year. Yeah, I kind of thought about that for a half a second. And then I thought, what the heck? Because I do have some steel books, and there is going to be a steel book in this group that I'm talking about here initially. Um, but I'm not, I don't buy a whole lot of them. If it has real cool artwork or something like that, I might. But I'm thinking probably what there's going to be is this, which I'm not saying this ain't cool, but I don't have to have that design on a steelbook. But I can totally understand people that collect more of these steel books. I could totally understand them getting that. Um, Darren, you say you're good with the box set too, and I would imagine a lot of people are going to be just satisfied with the box set. And I was talking to CK earlier today, and he said, "Aren't they coming out with? Haven't they announced like 2 and 3 coming to 4K?" And I said, "I don't know." And I asked Steve, and he said he didn't know either. So, um, if anybody else knows in the chat, feel free to speak up and tell me. Uh, Darren, you say, Dirk, I think there's a UK steel book. Texas, you say you could sell that slip for $1 million. I probably could. Probably could. But this is the only one out of 3 I got today that I'd had a chance to open. The next one is a steel book of John Carpenter's The Fog in 4K. And I do think that's pretty cool looking. The artwork on there. But as you can see, I haven't even taken the shrink wrap off of this sucker yet. Um, it does have a Dolby Atmos track on it. Um, it does have both the Blu-ray and the 4K. And I believe everything that is on this Blu-ray is also on the Screen Factory release. So, never fear if you get this and want to try to sell off your Blu-ray, your Screen Factory Blu-ray, then you should be able to safely do so because you've got a Blu-ray in here as well as the 4K. But the 4K does, like I said, it has a new Dolby Atmos track. It has a newly restored original mono track. Studio Canal did the 4K restoration on this. Um, and it's got audio commentary from writer and director John Carpenter and writer producer Deborah Hill. Audio commentary with actors Adrian Barbeau and Tom Atkins and production designer Tommy Lee Wallace. Retribution, uncovering John Carpenter's The Fog. The Shape of Things to Come. John Carpenter Unfilmed. An intro by John Carpenter, and a scene analysis by John Carpenter. And then, of course, like I said, pretty much the second disc, the Blu-ray, has the stuff that was on the Screen Factory Blu-ray. Let's see. Durkee said, I had to cancel something. We're getting slammed with physical media right now. We actually are, but it seems like this happens every fall, every September and October. The market is just kind of glutted with, things that a lot of us in here love, unfortunately. Um, so I've still got several that are on pre-order. I've got, I think Poltergeist and The Lost Boys will be coming here probably in about another week or so. And they weren't supposed to be here till October. So they're coming fast and furious, aren't they? Um, and the last one I got is not. I mean, it's not really a horror film, but it can be pretty horrifying at times. This is the 35th anniversary of Fatal Attraction, and this is the 4K of this. I'm really looking forward to watching this as well. I don't really. I don't really see any special features on this, but again, this is Paramount doing this, and it maybe not. I'll have to take a look at it. Maybe it actually will have some special features in it. But so you've got a 4K UHD with HDR10 and Dolby Vision. And it was supervised by the director Adrian Lynn. Um, Again, I don't believe we get any Dolby Atmos because Paramount's not going to give us shit. Um, but I'm still looking forward to seeing this in 4K though. But yeah, that's what I got in today. Let's see. Text you say, waiting to see what kind of bait and switch Vinegar Syndrome pulls next week. Yeah, it's probably going to be pretty epic. Derek, you say I have that coming. Should be here tonight. Darren, you say I got the UK Studio Canal, The Fog, but that steelbook looks way cooler. Yeah, I actually like the looks of that one. And Darren, I know you're a big fan of Fatal Attraction. You say it's a great film, long overdue, a decent release. Yeah, I'm really excited to see how it looks on the 4K. So, I will tell you, the final week of Argento versus Fulci, and I think my little girl Darcy came in here. We're only going to have 2 films per director for the final week, so we'll only be covering a total of 4 films. I can hear the ahs now, but as I said earlier, I ran out of Fulci films to compare with the Argento films. Thank you, Dirk. I'm like I said, I'm really excited about finishing up Friday the 13th and also watching the other 2. But the films we're going to be covering in the final week of Argento versus Fulci are the Argento films are Do You Like Hitchcock and Mother of Tears. The Fulci films will be Door to Silence and Voices from Beyond. So I can almost guarantee the scales are going to be tipped in Argento's favor for that final week. There's just no way around it. Now, you guys may prove me wrong, but I'm thinking it's gonna end on a high note for Argento. And following the final week of Argento versus Fulci, we're going to start the Mattei versus Fragrasso. We're going to have week 1 of that. Now, this was really hard for me to come up with 5 separate films for each one of these guys because I did not realize till I started looking at these things. These 2 guys worked on a lot of the same damn films together. And so it's like, gonna have to make some decisions here. So when we start week 1 of Mattei versus Fragrasso, the Mattei films will be Hell of the Living Dead, The Other Hell, Violence in a Women's Prison, Rats, Night of Terror, and Shocking Dark. The Fragrasso movies will be Monster Dog, After Death, otherwise known as Zombie 4, Beyond Darkness, Night Killer, and Troll 2. And Dirk, you said Fulci's Cat in the Brain is his masterpiece, and we're actually going to be talking about that tonight. So, Darren, you said I'm thinking Argento wins this week too. Possibly, but Yeah, if not, it's going to be pretty damn close. But again, the Argento films we're covering tonight are Trauma, Stendhal Syndrome, Phantom of the Opera, Sleepless, and The Card Player. The Fulci films will be The Devil's Honey, Enigma, Zombie 3, Cat in the Brain, and Pneumonia. Um, yeah, Darren, when we finish up, that is a great idea. So I'm going to write that down. And you guys may have said this before, and I apologize if. So when we finish up the Mattei versus Fragrasso, we will do the Martino versus Lindsay. And I think the Mattei versus Fragrasso is going to go pretty quickly. I don't anticipate it going on as long as the Argento versus Fulci. And so we'll probably be moving on to Martino versus Lindsay sooner rather than later. Oh, actually, I did have that on here. I did have it on my other sheet there. So, yes, we will definitely be covering that after Mattei versus Fragrasso. So, everybody can look forward to all of those things. Durkee said Fulci is more menacing, in my opinion. Yeah, he certainly can be. Darren, you say awesome. Texas, you say Martin versus Lewis. Okay, so what else do we have coming up? Tomorrow we have Cheese Extreme Wednesday. So you guys can look forward to that. And let's see what else we have coming up. Saturday, we have a watch along for a butcher, baker, nightmare maker. So you guys can look forward to that. And I don't know if I'll have anything going on Thursday and Friday. It probably depends on how I'm feeling health wise. Darky say Hagler versus Leonard. We may be getting way off topic with some of these. All right. So, and again, if anybody in here wants to join me live on the stream at any point in time, you just let me know and I will send you a link. And you know, when I say you can join at any time, I mean you literally can join at any time. If you have something you want to say live on here about the movies we're talking about or anything else, basically, I just want, you know, I want this to be loose and free form, and basically we throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. I You know, I'm not going to say that every week these have to be, you know, straight and narrow, uh, very structured, because sometimes those don't flow so well. Uh, so, Darren, you want to come on as audio only? So, give me 1 second here. And I will send you a link. And Darren, I have sent you a link through Messenger. And as soon as I see you in the green room, so to speak, I will add you on. So I'm going to kind of wait, give it a few seconds for Darren to get in here. And again, if anybody else at any point in time wants to join in, just let me know and I can send you a link. Oh goodness. But so what's been going on with everybody else? Anything interesting going on, or did anybody get any movies in? Oh goodness. Oh, now I'm gonna keep yawning. May have to go get some of the coffee drink, the mocha coffee drink. There's Darren. So let's see if we can. Hey, Darren.
Oh yeah, there we go.
I can hear you good, and I hope you can hear me. And
Yeah, all loud and clear.
all right. So, Darren, is there anything that you want to bring up? Like, have you gotten anything in lately that you want to briefly talk about before we get started? Or
I'm trying to think now what I got in. I got in that Ramos Lorez set from
oh,
Arrow,
right, uh huh,
and I watched Vampires last night, or most of it, and I
mm-hmm.
was quite impressed with that. Still need to finish the end of it though, because I fell asleep. And
I know how you feel. I do that a lot anymore.
yeah, and I've obviously got the Vinegar Syndrome new Giallo set,
Oh yes, yes.
and the Giallo Black set from Arrow, which I think I still need one more to finish that off. So yeah,
I think you and Steve got some of the same box sets.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, both of them.
So Texas is saying he has long conversations every night with Blissful, which that's sweet. Um, I used to have long conversations with my husband, but I don't so much anymore. I think he sees too much of me. We used to have longer conversations back when we were dating. Um, Durkee say, "Hey Darren, we're doing Perfect Crime Sunday, right?"
Perfect Crime, is that? I'm not
Because
sure what he means.
I just totally like my brain, like I said, it's been much, and I forgot what we even picked.
Oh, it was Steve's pick one. It was Delamorte.
Oh, that's right, Cemetery Man, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Which I
Okay,
still need to watch.
I need to go back and watch it. I guess I'll probably end up rewatching it with Steve. So, Dirk, that's what we're doing. We're doing Cemetery Man. Uh, and I'm calling it Cemetery Man because that's easier for me to say than the other title. But I'm going to go ahead and get started with like the first two pairings here, which the Argento pick is Trauma, which, believe it or not, I used to get a long time ago, not now, but a long time ago, I used to always get Trauma and Tenebrae mixed up. And I don't know how I did that, but maybe because they both had T in the title, maybe. I don't know. And the Fulci offering to pair up with this one is the Devil's Honey, which I can tell you right now which one I think's the better one. And for me, it's Trauma, because Trauma to me is, I mean, it's not pure classic Argento, but it definitely has those elements in it. And again, as most of the Argento movies that I've talked about during this series, there are great set pieces in it. There are great kills. Um, there is also, and Darren, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't there a scene in a mental hospital that's kind of chilling? Isn't this the one that has that? Um,
um, right, you want a big trauma?
yeah,
I've watched that fairly recently actually, but I can't remember the mental institution.
yeah. I thought there was one. scene where I'm guessing maybe it's James Russo and Aja Argento. I don't really know why they're there. I don't know if he came to rescue her for some
Oh,
reason.
right. Yeah, maybe it's because of her anorexia. And
Yeah, I
yeah,
bet that was it. Yeah, because I knew there was some scene, and any scenes that have to do with mental hospitals, mental institutions, asylums, um, whatever you want to call them, they just seem to really creep me out. And so the scene where James Russo has to get Aja Argento's character is very unsettling. Um,
yeah. Now you mentioned it, I can remember it now. Because you've got the like um these mad people roaming up and down. Doesn't I think
exactly.
a nurse gets killed or something? Is it something
I
like
think
that?
so. Yeah, yeah, I'm pretty sure. I didn't get a chance to go back and rewatch this one, but there are things that stand out with this movie. Um,
Yeah, I
so,
might be a little rusty myself.
so Aura, I may be massacring that name, is a young Romanian who she's on the run from her parents, and she's rescued by a journalist and recovering drug addict. So then when they return her home, Aura's parents get murdered by a serial killer known as the Headhunter. And then so Aura goes back on the run to David with no one to turn to for help. The unlikely pair launch their own investigation into the killings. Yeah, see, as I'm reading this, it's starting to come back to me. Discovering shocking and long hidden revelations that connect the continuing murders um, ever closer to Aura and a terrifying secret from her past. Um, Piper Laurie is also on this film, and I think Piper Laurie is great in it. I mean,
Yeah.
she's not going crazy over the top like on Carrie or something like that. It's little less crazy than that, but she still does a great job. Pino Donaggio does the score, and Pino Donaggio, I believe he did a lot of the music for Carrie. So, I think Pino Donaggio is a great. I mean, he does some great scores. I think they're haunting and they're haunting and melodic at the same time. Um, and I just feel like this the score for Trauma was no exception. Now, it's quite a bit different than Goblin or the times when there've been like some heavy metal soundtracks on some of these movies. But I still think it was a good choice. Um,
I think the score is wonderful in this film. Um, I think, like you say, that you had the right word, haunting. It's really the whole atmosphere of the film. You've got like a very rainy atmosphere early on. I think
mhm,
there's a beautiful love story between the two main characters.
mhm.
I actually like the main guy who plays that part because I know he gets a lot of stick, for his performance. But I actually
Uh,
think it works really well with Aja. So yeah, I got nothing, but good things to say about Trauma.
and as I'm reading through here, I'm remembering that there are a lot of great actors in here. Frederick Forrest is in here. Brad Dourif. I mean, yeah, like Argento had everybody in this movie. Um,
And Tom Savini as well does the
and
effects.
yes, he certainly did. So, I mean, I really can't find anything to dislike about Trauma. Um, I mean, some people might think it's a little lower class than some of Argento's films, but we haven't got to some of these we haven't got to some of these later ones yet. So I would hold off on your criticisms of Argento till we get down to some of these other ones. I know somebody had already said something about the card player not being a good movie, and after kind of rewatching it before I did this stream, I would have to agree, but I'm going to talk more about that here in a little bit. But if you compare it with Fulci's The Devil's Honey, in my opinion, it's no contest. It's got to be Trauma that's the better film. Um, I mean, The Devil's Honey is sleazy. It's very exploitive. Um, it has the saxophone sex scene. I mean, it's got a lot of those elements that normally people would say, "Oh, yeah, that's awesome," but we're talking about comparing it with the Argento film, and so if you do that, I just I just think there's no contest. And also, they keep calling Fulci the godfather of gore, which naturally he was. But I don't recall The Devil's Honey being that gory. I mean, Darren, what are your thoughts on The Devil's Honey?
Right, believe it or not, I've never seen The Devil's Honey.
Oh,
Um,
really? Okay.
yeah, I don't own a physical copy or anything like that. I do have it on digital. It's just one I've never got around to. I've heard it's more of like an erotic thriller.
Yeah, yeah, and it just it didn't seem like a Fulci film to
Right.
me,
Yeah.
and I've said that about some of Argento stuff too. It didn't. Some of his films didn't feel like an Argento film. It almost felt like somebody else was directing them, like a ghost director or something. Because it didn't like with this Fulci film, it didn't seem to have the Fulci feel or the Fulci style. Um, and I don't mind a little sleaze in the movies. But when it overtakes, or I feel like it overtakes the storyline, that's when I start to tune out. And I feel like the sleaze was on a such a level that it was just dripping from this movie.
Right.
And
Isn't there a scene in this with the saxophone? Like a sexual scene with a saxophone?
yes, there is.
That's something I need to see, I think.
And Steve kind of, this sounds kind of weird, but he's the one that introduced me to this movie, of course. This is his copy. Um, and actually, most of these in this stack are his copies of movies, because some of them I was too lazy to go dig my copies out, because some of them I only have DVD only, which would mean I'd have to go way back there and dig around through the movies. And I just, I didn't want to do that. So I said, Steve, can I pull out some of your movies and use them as visuals? He said, yeah, just put them back. I said, what do you think I'm going to do? Steal them? It's like, you think I'm going to put them in my collection? We live in the same house. If I want to watch the stuff, I'll just pull it out and watch it. So Dirk said the sock scene is gold in The Devil's Honey, but he says Trauma is a better film though. And Dirk says Trauma is original as fuck. The killer and the weapon didn't see him coming. Um, yeah, I mean, Trauma is original, and with and some people might think The Devil's Honey with the saxophone sex scene and all of that is original, but that's just adding. I feel like when they add too much sleaze to it, no matter how unique the scene is, I just feel like it's covering up for other weaknesses in the film. And so I just think The Devil's Honey is a much weaker film than Trauma. So perhaps Fulci felt that he needed to cover up some weak spots. And then again, he might not have given a shit about it. He just might have said, "Oh yeah, I want to make an extra sleazy film and put it out." I mean, I honestly don't know for sure. Um,
Right, and with trauma as well, you had Argento in his American era, if you like. He made a few films. He obviously
yeah.
made Two Evil Eyes, I think, 3 years before.
Hmm.
Um, so there's that. You got a really strange, like, usually all his movies are focused in Italy, and I know a
Yeah.
lot of people didn't like that as well. But I actually, it's quite a bland film. It's not, you haven't got the colors of Suspiria or something like that. It's quite a bland film. But for me, I think it's one of his really underrated films.
Yeah, and some of these others I'm going to talk about tonight, or we're going to talk about tonight, are I feel like they're underrated. I think that they don't get enough credit, uh, especially in the Argento group of films. There's some of these, and you guys might be surprised by the ones that I actually say that I feel like they're underrated or underappreciated. Texas says Herschel Gordon Lewis is the godfather of gore. Damn it. Well, yeah, maybe in America, Texas, maybe they're saying Fulci's the godfather of gore in Italy. Perhaps
I
that's what.
think I think Fulci is the godfather of gore. Period.
I'm trying to mellow Texas out over here.
I'm only winding up.
So, believe it or not, the next Argento offering, I don't believe I had ever seen it before today. And that is the Stendhal syndrome. And again,
Wow.
this is Steve's copy of this movie. Um, and the Fulci offering is Enigma, which I will say I consider this one kind of like a Carrie sort of ripoff type of movie. So okay, so let me talk about Stendhal syndrome first. And I'm guessing I'm going to take a lot of flack here because I didn't much care for Stendhal syndrome. I wanted to like it. I really, really did. And it was bloody. It did have a lot of the Argento set pieces that are, gory, but they're beautiful. Um, and all of that. I don't know. The film just didn't seem to work for me. And I can't it's one of those that I can't really put my finger on what made me not like it as well as some of the other Argento offerings I've talked about in this series. Um, but there was one scene that I really thought was unique in this movie, and that was the razor blade scene.
Yeah.
Um, and Darren knows what I'm talking about. That I was like, that is really cool. That is unique. I've never seen a scene quite like it. But for that to be the only scene for me that stood out, it's not enough to make me say, "Oh yeah, this is a great Argento movie." Now, I'm going to turn it over to Darren and let him share his thoughts on Stendhal syndrome before we move on to the Fulci movie.
Right. Well, first off, I've got to apologise to Dirk because I recommended him this film a while back, and I know he don't like it. For me personally, it's almost breaking my top 5 Argento films. I absolutely love it.
Hmm.
Really like everything about it. I love Asia Argento in it. I think the performance again gets a lot of stick, but I thought she was fantastic. I think the guy who plays the killer, is a wonderful actor. He absolutely nails it. But you've got the whole atmosphere. You've got that early scene in the museum or the art house.
Right.
Kind of reminded me a little bit of Dress to Kill. Um,
Oh, yeah, I didn't even think about that, but since you brought it up, yeah.
and I think it sets up the old picture really well, with obviously the Stendhal syndrome being a fear of, paintings and stuff.
Mhm.
Um, and I know it's not going to be for everyone because of, the rape scene. You can't really get over that fact. It's quite
Mhm.
a nasty film. But
Yeah,
for me, I think if I had to put it up against Enigma, it would win absolutely hands down. But again, I know it's not going to be for everyone.
so, Dirk says Stendhal syndrome versus Enigma. Both aren't great. Got to go with Enigma. And I guess I'm going to be in the Dirk camp on this because I would have to agree that, in my opinion, neither film is that great. But I'm a huge fan of Carrie. I love the book, I love the movie. And so I think those elements of Carrie, even though they're not carried off quite as well as Carrie, um, I still, it still for me edges out Stendhal syndrome by just a little bit. Um, so this is listed as Fulci's final horror hit of the 80s. Um, Lucio Fulci combined elements of Carrie, Phenomena, and Suspiria. Now, I don't know about all that, but it definitely does have some elements of Carrie. With the grisly surrealism of his own past classics for one last shocker packed with brooding, ominous imagery and signature Fulci style. So this movie starts off with, and I mean, I guess because I'm not Italian, maybe I don't understand all these Italian mores and stuff, or morals, as you might say. Um, so the movie starts out with a girl who is being dressed by other girls, and there's also a guy there, and I don't know, I can't recall if the guy is ever, if it's ever alluded to that he's gay. Is that why he's hanging out with these girls? Because I can't remember if he ever is with any of these girls. Um, but my brain, unfortunately is failing me more and more all the time. But so there's a guy and a bunch of girls, and they're dressing this other girl up who seems kind of meek and shy and all of that. And they just seem more like the preppy kids, like the preppy high school kids that I remember when I was growing up. And so you kind of have to wonder, why are they being so nice to this girl? And they're only being nice to her to set her up because they don't like her. Um, and so, although it's not quite as graphic as the pig blood scene in Carrie, where she's humiliated at her prom, um, it's still humiliating to this girl, so much so that she gets into an accident and ends up in a coma. But while she's in a coma, she's able to telepathically get her revenge on the kids that set her up. So, Darren, have you seen Enigma?
Yeah, I've seen Enigma. I haven't seen it for a long time though, but now you mentioned some of the plot, it's coming back a little bit. Isn't there like a scene with snails on the girl's face? If I remember
Yes,
rightly.
yes, I believe so.
Um, I certainly think it's a decent Fulci film. I don't think it's a bad one at all. From what was to come a bit later on.
Hmm.
But I can't remember too much about it. So it's one I'll have to revisit.
Okay. But I think Darren has already pretty much decided that whether he's seen Enigma or not or rewatched it, Stendhal Syndrome would be your favorite, right?
Yeah, hands down.
Okay. So let's see what Dirk said here. He says, Stendhal figured it out too quick. I can't say that of any other Argento. Usually, if I figure it out before the third act, it usually falls flat for me. And Dirk also says, I will give it another watch, though, in a couple of months just to see if Aja's body painting changes my mind.
I will definitely say give it another watch in a few months to yourself as well, Dina, because I
Yeah,
know
I might do
on
that.
on first viewing I probably was a little bit mixed with it, and then second, third viewing it just sort of clicked with me and gone on to become one of my favorite films. So it might have that effect on you. You don't know.
Yeah, and I'll maybe I can have Steve remind me that hey, I need to pull this movie back out and watch it again because I actually was trying to go through some of these pretty quickly, and I was trying to find them on YouTube. Um, but Stendhal Syndrome was one that I could not find for free on YouTube, so that's why I had to pull Steve's movie out and actually watch it.
Did the
Now,
rape scene put you off at all?
um, it was very disturbing, and it's definitely a scene that will stick with you for the
Yeah.
remainder of the film, and perhaps even a little bit after the film is over. Um, but you're talking to a person who hasn't seen I Spit on Your Grave, Last House on the Left,
Yeah.
uh, Thriller, A Cruel Picture, all those big kind of like rape revenge type of movies. Um, but it is rough to watch. I'm not saying it is easy to watch by any stretch of the imagination. So definitely if somebody's sensitive to that kind of material, um, you might want to take it easy with Stendhal syndrome because it is there, it is graphic, and it doesn't pull any punches either. Um, so I think Argento meant business when he was showing that scene. I just always thought, and I've always thought this when Aja started to be when she got old enough for I hate to say for Argento to abuse his own daughter on film, but I mean when she got old enough to do those adult scenes, um, I mean, he really poured it on. He didn't pull any punches with her either. So
No, yeah, that's right. He started off with the topless scene in Trauma, didn't he, when she was 16, I believe.
mhm.
And what I like again about Stendhal with her character is she becomes really sort of cold, really mean, to her
Yes.
ex lover, and she does the old hair cutting thing, which I think she looks fantastic with shorter hair. But that's that's
Yeah,
just me.
Steve would probably say, "Oh God, she cut her hair off," because that's what Steve usually said. Like on those few movies that Edwidge Fenech had short hair.
Yeah.
Steve was like, "Oh man, she doesn't have that long, beautiful, dark
Oh,
hair."
see, I'd be the opposite here. I think Asia looks better with shorter hair.
Mhm. I
Um,
think she's beautiful. I mean, especially in her younger days with either long or short hair.
yeah, I think the last film though, she's sort of her lifestyle's catching up with her a little bit. You can see she's not as nice, and again, I'm not criticizing anyone.
Hmm.
It's life, in it. You get older, but yeah, it's not quite as nice as she was. But her sister seems to have overtook her now, and I'm seeing her on Facebook.
Yeah, I need to check her out on Facebook because that when you were telling me that the other night, it intrigued me.
Yeah, she's pretty accessible. Just she'll add you, I think.
Let's see. Turk says, "I will, Darren, if you'll watch Hereditary."
Well, I'll watch it. If Dirk picks it, I'll watch it.
And Dirk says Argento definitely exploited her. She was underage and trauma. And again, I don't know if that's an Italian thing. I don't know if it's just like our American and British sensibilities uh, make it where we just don't understand that culture. Or perhaps that's just Argento being Argento. I don't know for sure.
I Yeah, I think it's a European thing. It's certainly an Italian thing because I don't think that would ride very good in the UK. Um, but some of these European countries, you've got like Russia and places like that, they're a bit
Mm.
more liberal, and Germany for sure.
Oh yeah. Um, let's see. Turk said she looks like Argento with tits. Does nothing for me.
Ooh,
Oh man, I've got images I don't want to have now. Uh, I don't think I'd go that far, but
she's
that
definitely an acquired taste. I mean, it can go both ways with her. I know some people like who actually love her, think she looks great, and other
mm.
people wouldn't give her the time of day. So I don't know. It's a divisive thing, I think.
So the next couple of films that we're going to talk about, um, the Argento pick is Phantom of the Opera, not opera, but Phantom of the Opera, which also has Aja. A lot of these we're going to talk about are going to have Aja in them tonight. The Fulci offering, unfortunately, I don't have a visual for it, but it is Zombie 3.
Right.
Um, which Taryn's probably going to laugh his ass off at me about this, but I think Steve and I had watched Phantom of the Opera a while back, but I was kind of going through it and refreshing myself before the stream. I don't know, guys. I don't know. This was too gothic for me, I think. I think that's what it was. And I don't know if I just wasn't in the mood for that tonight or what what was going on. So Darren's gonna think I'm crazy, but I'm gonna have to go with Zombie 3 on this, and I'll tell you why. Because where Phantom of the Opera was dark and brooding and gothic, even though it had a lot of atmosphere to it, a again, great set pieces, etc., etc. Um, Zombie 3 was more fun. And I guess I was just in the mood for fun rather than a dark, moody, atmospheric, um, gothic Argento film. Because Zombie 3 is not it's not anywhere on the same level as Phantom of the Opera. They're they're two totally different films, but I think Zombie 3 was packed with so much like rip off stuff from other things. Like I saw elements of the crazies in there. I saw elements of like Dawn of the Dead. I mean, there were a lot of different horror movies that it seemed like Fulci was dipping from this pool of a bunch of different horror movies and crammed them all in this film. Now, does it totally make sense sometimes? No, it doesn't. Um, but you've got zombies running around, you got people getting attacked, you got things blowing up. You got this guy's face basically disintegrating on camera in front of us. Um, and it's not a good film by any stretch of the imagination. Don't be thinking you're going to watch something like The Beyond or even House by the Cemetery, something like that. It's not that. Um, it's way over on the other side as far as those movies, but I just found it fun. You didn't have to think a lot about it. Um, and it just kind of brought me back to a time period when there were a lot of those movies like that just didn't really make any freaking sense. Um, but they were fun and exciting and had explosions and blood and guts and all that. So for those reasons, and for those reasons alone, I would say that Zombie 3 is my favorite of these two offerings. Now, I'm going to turn it over to Darren and see
Yeah,
what he has to say about it.
right. I definitely go with Zombie Free.
I'm
Even though,
surprised by that. I'm surprised.
yeah, even though I think Bruno Mattei directed about 20 minutes of this as well,
Oh, I
because I
could
think,
definitely see that.
like you say, all of the above really. It's fun. You know, you got it's just you got action non-stop. As whereas the Phantom of the Opera, although it's technically a very good film, technically it
Mhm,
suffers from being boring. There's no flair at all. You can't see any Argento flair in it, really,
mhm.
apart from the technical aspects. Um, and I didn't like Julian Sands as well, the lead actor. I think Azure does an okay job.
Mm.
But
I thought
Fulci's
Julian
film,
Sands was very bland
yeah,
in this
sort of
movie.
a nondescript type, lead man. He doesn't
Mm,
do anything to enhance the film at all. Um, so yeah, I would definitely go with Zombie Free. It's just batshit crazy. It's 90 minutes of just non-stop fun.
mm,
And although it's totally different to Zombie 2, it does make a good double feature because you've got the
mhm,
slow, sort of brooding atmosphere in Zombie 2, and then you can just put that on straight after and just, even if you make fun of the film, even, it's funny on that level as well. So yeah,
mhm.
Zombie Free, definitely.
And I'm thinking Dirk picked Zombie 3 as well. He says Zombie 3 is the winner. Um, and he says Argento's Phantom is a disrespect to Lon Chaney. And he also says Zombie 3 is fun as hell. I just don't feel like, in my opinion, that Argento was the right director for Phantom of the Opera. Um, you know how we talked a little bit about sometimes people are miscast in movies as actors and actresses. I think he was miscast as director in this. I don't know if the movie would have been any better if somebody else directed it, but it was clearly um, this type of movie is clearly not Argento's forte, in my opinion.
No, it seems strange as well that he wanted to, he's already made a kick-ass like opera film in opera,
Hmm.
and then over 10 years later wanting to make something like this, it just didn't make sense to me. And I know he's actually directed an actual opera, with the music. I know he's
Hmm.
actually directed a kind of a film of that as well. So I think he's just got a big thing with operas. But no, not for me at all. I just think you can't top, the 1987 version really of opera.
Hmm. I would
So
much
yeah.
rather watch that opera than to watch Phantom of the Opera again.
Oh, not even close. Not even close for me.
So, moving on, the next pairing is Argento's Sleepless and Fulci's Cat in the Brain. And this is one that Steve was never going to buy. So the Cat in the Brain is my copy. Uh, so um, again, I don't think you'll ever see Steve buy this one. I don't think he's a fan of it. So I'm going to tell you right off, even though Cat in the Brain is fun and I like the fact that Fulci puts himself in here as a director that's losing his mind, a horror director that's losing his mind. I like all of that. It's fun and everything, but I feel like Argento's Sleepless is a much better film. It's better made. And I don't think that Fulci was really concentrating on Cat in the Brain being like a piece of art or anything. He was just saying, I'm just going to make this movie. But upon rewatching Sleepless, I realized again how really well made it was, how put together it was. And this was not one I remembered it rewatching it. I thought I hadn't seen it first, and then I thought, oh yeah, Steve and I saw this a few months ago. We
Yeah, we
watched.
did it on the podcast. We did.
Yeah, that's right. That's why we watched it, because you've got Max von Sydow in this, who I think Max von Sydow is awesome in this movie.
Yeah,
Um, and I think I mentioned this on the Eurocult show too, that I was quite angry with the way the other cops and detectives were treating Max von Sydow's character in this. It's like they come begging for his help, and then when he wants to kind of get more immersed in the case, they're like, "And no, no, old man, we're not gonna let you do this." Um, and they were making a bunch of stupid mistakes and stuff, and they should have listened to him in the beginning. Um, so I did not. When Steve and I watched it before the Eurocult show, I was not able to figure out who the killer was. Perhaps some other people were, but I didn't figure this one out until the end. Um, Very well acted. Um, has some great kills in it. Um, this one, in my opinion, definitely has Argento stamp all over it. And I think this one was kind of a return to form for him. Now, Darren might
yeah.
disagree with me here.
No, I totally agree.
And I think he was getting back to his roots here, or trying to get back to his roots. Um, and those are all reasons why, if I had to compare it with Cat in the Brain, which Cat in the Brain, comparing Sleepless and Cat in the Brain, is kind of like trying to uh, compare Citizen Kane and a comic book movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
This is this is classic Fulci trash that I love, and this is a really well thought out and well acted and executed movie, um, with all of Argento's, like I said, great set pieces and stuff. Again, another reason this is a return to form, Goblin does the music in this one. So if you had been missing Goblin, you get to hear him again on this. Um, so definitely this for me is the pick between Sleepless and Cat in the Brain. And so I'm going to let Darren talk a little bit about these two movies, if he'd like.
yeah. Sleepless. So you've got, like you say, you've got that Goblin score. They come back to redo the score for Argento. I think it's so underrated, that score. For me, it's probably in my top 5 scores of all time. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
You've got that opening scene, on the train. You just
Yeah.
the first 20 minutes of Sleepless is as good as anything he's ever done, in my opinion. I love the whole backstory with, the killer dwarf. I think Max van Sydow is absolutely fantastic. And you're actually, when he, I don't know if you're up for spoilers or anything, but there's a scene 3/4 of the way through, but I'll just say it anyway, where he dies, and I was genuinely shocked. And it is
Oh, yeah.
genuinely, because you invested so much in that character. You know, I was genuinely upset watching it. I think, yeah, again, it's better. This film's better than Trauma. It's not quite as good as Stendhal, but it's still a fantastic film in my opinion. I'm putting it up against Cat in the Brain, which I saw the first time I saw Cat in the Brain. It was as Nightmare Concert on UK TV on the Horror Channel, and I didn't like it then. It's one I've gone back to 2 or 3 times, and I just can't get through the first 20 minutes of it. I'm sorry if I upset any Fulci fans, but
no, I mean, the main reason I bought it, and I got the Grindhouse releasing version, is just because at the time that I bought it, I had not seen Cat in the Brain. It was one that I had heard about. And I thought, well, what the heck, I'll just go ahead and add that to my Fulci collection. And Steve, like I always say, Steve looked at me like I woke up and put my clothes on sideways when I told him that I was getting that. He's like, why? Why are you getting Cat in the Brain? Why, of all movies you could get, why are you getting that? Well, if I hadn't gotten it, I couldn't have talked about it tonight on the show. So
it's
that
got
was
a cool concept where you've got Fulci, and he's like still a director and all that, is pretty good. But it just seems like, well, it pretty much is a hodgepodge in it of all his earlier, scenes from films and stuff. It just didn't appeal to me at all. But that's one I really wanna love, because everyone, Fulci fans you talk to absolutely really actually quite, highly regard that film. So it's one I might do a flip 180 on one day, hopefully, because I'd rather love it than hate it, but we'll see.
right. Let's see. Dirk's really talking in here. He loves these verses shows. He told me that.
Yeah,
Before.
pretty cool. Yeah.
So Dirk says, yeah, opera is solid as hell. He says sleeplessness, and he's got a lot of these award little emojis on there. And Dirk says, I was surprised with Sleepless being made in 2001. I had very low expectations, but it's badass. Yeah, it normally when you tell me, oh, a film was made in 2001 or it come out in 2001, I'm like, I'm always a little hesitant. But I totally agree with Dirk. It is badass. I would highly recommend it to anybody that has not seen it.
I will say with Sleepless, though, when it did first come out and for a long time after, not a lot of people liked it, which
I think
I
it had
was
to grow
surprised.
on them. It had to grow
I think
on
it's only the last 3 or 4 years, maybe 2 or 3 years actually, that I've actually seen people come out now and say, "Look, I love that film," or "It's really good Argentos." So a lot of people say his last best film was Opera, but I don't know. We could come on to more. Like, I still think Mother of Tears is a decent film. It's not a classic, but yeah, I think Sleepless is one of his last great films.
I would have to agree with that too, Darren. Um, Dirk says, "Cat in the Brain is what it is." LOL. Yeah, exactly. It is what it is. It's not. It's not going to win any awards, obviously, but it's fun for a watch. I mean, you know how you get lazy on a Sunday afternoon or a Saturday afternoon or whatever, then you could pop in Cat in the Brain and you could have your brain could be thinking about something else or thinking about what you're going to have for supper or whatever. And you could still get something out of the movie, even if half your brain was thinking about something else. That's what's so great about films like that.
That's what I like about these streams, is because you get me back interested again in revisiting some of these films, and
Yeah,
that I definitely want to see Cat in the Brain again now. So it's good in
I'm
that respect.
I'm hoping that it does that for a lot of people. And we usually seem to have quite a few people in here. I think it's I've been watching the numbers of people in here. It's went down to 5 now. Um, but I would like to see more people having a discussion in here. For Dirk, I feel like he's having a discussion with himself in the chat.
I apologize. I can't see the chat either.
Oh, daggone. I need to figure out how to do that so you guys can see the chat. I may have to ask Wes about that because he would know. I know there's a way to do that. Um, do you see anything on your end when you're in here, Darren, that would indicate that you could click on it and see a chat or?
I tried clicking on the chat button, but it just brought me into a private chat on,
Ah,
with yourself.
gotcha. Oh,
There's another way I could do it by looking on the laptop or something in the future, maybe.
well, let me figure that out. Hopefully, I can figure it out before we do another one of these, and that way, because I thought my settings were where everybody that was in here could see the chat. Even if they were on the stream with me. But shoot, okay, I'll definitely look into that. Um, Dirk says, click on comments, Darren.
I haven't got a comment on the right on mine.
Oh, see, yeah, I'm gonna have to look into that. That's probably me.
I'll
Uh,
look into it as well.
oh, Dirk says my fog steelbook just arrived. LOL. UPS at night. Gotta love it.
Right, what time would that be then over where Dirk is? Like
What?
9:15 maybe?
Yeah,
Oh no, I think he's 5 or 6 hours, isn't he?
yeah. Like if he's on Eastern time, like us, or like me and Steve, it's about 9:16
I
p.m.
think he's an hour earlier than yourself.
Okay. Um, let's see.
8:16 he's got there.
So it's not quite as late as me. But then are you up in the morning, like the wee morning hours, Darren, right now?
Yeah, this is 2:15 in the morning.
Jesus.
That's why sometimes I can't do them on multiple times because it does catch up with me a little bit.
I would definitely not be able to do these if it was 2 o'clock in the morning.
I'm lucky
So
I got no commitments at the moment, so
I
it's not too
got
bad.
So we're going to move on to the last pairing of the night, which is, and this is Steve's DVD. It's an Anchor Bay DVD, and I tell you, I rewatched it today, and it looks like shit. I don't know if there's a better copy of this anywhere, but my gosh, it looked bad. Um, and he must have bought it used from somewhere because it's still got the stickers on it that says like $4.99. Not sure where he bought it at, but anyways, um, so we have the card player, and we have Fulci's Demonia, which this is Steve's Arrow release that he got in. Because Steve likes those nunsploitation films, so naturally he had to get this one. Okay, so this one's going to be really hard for me, really, really hard. And it's going to be really hard for me to pick a favorite because, honestly, okay, I'm just going to tell you why. The Card Player, in my opinion, could have been a really great film if Argento had done a few things differently. And I know it's called the freaking Card Player. I know that. But I just literally did not like the whole online card playing thing, the aspect of it. I wish that they could have figured out a different way to tie together these killings other than online poker or whatever it was. Um, and it's way too long. This thing's at 104 minutes. 104 minutes. That's to me that's too long for a movie of this caliber because this movie is not high caliber Argento. Um, and I don't know who wrote this on the back of the DVD. I don't know who wrote the praise for it, but like the DVD Times said, Argento outdoes himself. A very tense thriller, highly recommended. Um, but Argento is in this one. Uh, Claudio Simonetti does the score. I mean, there were a lot of things that should have made this a really good film. But Lord, I don't know what happened. Um, because there was tons of overacting in this film, in my opinion. That online poker aspect was not good. It totally didn't work for me. Um, yeah, I don't know. I could go on, but I won't.
I think
Um,
it's like a big CSI episode, like a 2 hour special.
yeah, it does. And with the bad quality, it really looks like some television episode.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's definitely a film of its time. Was it 2004? I do, I do like certain aspects of it. I don't mind the score. I didn't mind the poker playing aspect.
mhm.
Some of the kills are quite grisly, which is what you want in an
That's
Argento film.
probably my favorite thing about it was the grisly kills in it.
Yeah, I do think the actual performances are really bad, though. I agree with you there.
Mm.
Um, and the whole ending, I think, was quite a bit corny as well. Which
Yeah.
she finds out she's pregnant and that. So yeah, it's probably I would put it as okay. I would like it more than most because I'm a diehard Argento fan, but I
Mhm,
can certainly see why people don't like it, and it's probably okay, mediocre at best.
mhm. Yeah, I think I'm in that same camp too, Darren. Now, the reason why I said it was going to be hard for me to pick the better film is because I have never been a big fan of Demonia. I just haven't. Um, I just feel like Demonia is too slow and slightly boring. Actually, and the daggone thing is only 89 or 84 minutes, depending on which version you watch. But I don't know. I just don't. I guess for entertainment value alone, I would have to go with the card player. But it's just really hard for me to pick one that I think is the better out of these two. Um, I think I always think Steve likes Demonia just because it's kind of a nunsploitation type of movie. But there were things, I know Fulci films don't always make sense, but this one made even less sense than a lot of his films. I couldn't put all the pieces together with this movie. I didn't know what it was trying to say or if it was trying to say anything, what exactly it was trying to do. Um, Maybe he wasn't trying to do anything. He was just Fulci putting something out there. Um, so yeah, I would have to say in this case, the card player for me edges it out by a fraction, by just a fraction. And
Right,
I think,
I've never seen Pneumonia. Sorry.
oh, that's okay. That's fine.
Is that the new? Has Steve got the new edition, the Arrow
Uh,
edition?
yes, he does.
It's one I'm meaning to pick up. So it's one I've just never got around to. I don't know whether the exploitation thing is a big thing for me. So, but it's one I will watch eventually.
Right. And I mean, I have watched it more than once. I watched it years and years ago before I even met Steve and knew the word nunsploitation. But even way back then when I watched it, I was not impressed. Um, this one, Demonia, for me, did not feel like a Fulci film.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
and perhaps Fulci was trying to do something different. Maybe he wasn't trying to do something different. Maybe, like I said about some of these others, maybe he just said, I don't give a shit. I'm going to make something. And if people like it, okay. If they don't, I don't give a shit if they like it or not. I just think I think that's pretty much the attitude, the directing attitude that Fulci had at his entire career. Um, and I'm not saying that certain life tragedies didn't cause a little bit of that, but I think even if these tragedies hadn't happened to him, I think that he would have still been a director that didn't care what people thought of his work. He was just putting his stuff out there. If you watched it, great. If you didn't, no skin off his nose. He was just out there making movies. Um,
Yeah. By the time this came out as well, the Italian film industry had almost dried up. I know he
yeah.
did make two films in two TV films a couple of years before this one, in the Houses of Doom series, because he
Mhm.
made two TV films in that, and Umberto Lenzi made two as well, like House of
Right.
Witchcraft. They're all called House of something or other. Um, but yeah, I just think the poor budget, and he's obviously health wise, he's probably declining a little bit,
Right.
and he just went on, a gradual sort of downhill spiral.
Mhm. Um, so, um, being as Darren hasn't seen Demonia, um, I guess we would have to assume at this point just it'd be the card player for you. But what we need to do? We need to revisit this after you've watched Demonia, and
Yeah,
then
yeah,
we can see what your thoughts are on that. So don't let me forget to do that when you do watch Demonia.
yeah.
Uh,
I will for sure. Yeah,
let's see what Dirk says here. Dirk says the card player was lazy writing. All the kills were off screen, and the old railroad damsel in distress was shitty. Um,
right.
that's worse than a 3-year-old Christmas fruitcake card player. Demonia is the winner. So he disagrees with me on that. Um,
I can now see the comments. I got it on my screen on my TV, so I can see
oh,
what Dirk's just put up as well.
Dirt says only good thing about the card player is the cover art on the Kino slip. And he also says, speaking on Martino, I don't think I've seen as bad a film from him as Argento and Fulci. Um,
I certainly agree with Dirk there.
so I'm going to be the lone pushback, I think, on some of those Martino films.
Torso.
Definitely Torso. And honestly, like I said when we covered Torso on the show, I tried. I honestly tried. Before we did the Eurocult show and talked about Torso, I said I'm going to go in with an open mind. I'm going to try to watch this fresh without thinking about how I felt about it before. And it still didn't work for me.
I
Um,
will say though that Martino did direct one bad film that I've seen, and that's the Scorpion with Two Tails. That I think's
oh,
getting a release now again from Full Moon.
I
That's
don't think
pretty
I've
bad,
seen that one. Maybe I shouldn't see it if it's
but
that.
don't get it sort of. People get it mixed up with A Case of Scorpion's Tail, which
Mm-hmm.
is a lot better. That's one of his classic films.
Okay, gotcha. Um, so Darren, is there anything else you want to bring up or, suggest to me? I always say people can suggest stuff for future streams or, maybe.
Um, yeah, and I love these sort of versus shows. I think they're
Mhm.
really good.
So
Um,
we've got Matei versus Fragrasso coming up, and we're gonna have Martino versus Lindsay. Do you have any other like pairings that you would like to see?
right, let me think. Sort of depending on what films you pick for each director, I'm trying to
Mhm.
think of something that would be pretty close. And Hooper Carpenter would be close, I think. Well, maybe. um, but yeah, I'm trying to think offhand there. Certainly, Dan Martino Lenzi would be almost sort of neck and neck. I know I slightly probably favour one over the other, but I think other people it would be a close one. Just looking at my collection there. But you could do all sorts of things. You could do 1980 slashers against 1981 slashers or something like that, or
Mm.
certain year in zombie films, or just year in general versus
Oh,
another year. So,
Dirk put Cronenberg versus Barker.
see,
That
I'd
one,
love to, Cronenberg. I need to watch a few more of his films. That'd be a good excuse to do that.
yeah. So I'm definitely putting that one down. Um, so we got some ones to get started, but if anybody, thinks of any more at any point in time, just let me know. Dirk says, "Really, Dana, I can't believe you don't like Torso. That blows my mind. It's a lot like a slasher." I know, Dirk. I mean, I think Darren kind of said the same thing when he found out that I didn't care for Torso. Um, but
But you have only seen that once, though, have you?
yeah,
Maybe you might like it then on the second or third time of watching.
maybe I'll give it like maybe if I give it a few months and go back and watch it again, I'll have to like kind of revisit it a little bit and
Yeah,
let
you
you.
usually know with your gut instinct anyway, and I think your gut instinct tells you don't like it anyway, so maybe that's just that.
I was remembering too while we were talking, Darren, that you had brought up like the New York slashers at one time,
Oh yeah, yeah. That would
and
be a
I'd
great
really
show.
like to do that one at some point. So I'm writing it down so I don't forget about it.
And there's a hell of a lot as well in that,
Oh yeah,
that falls into that bracket.
yeah. I think Steve thinks I think Steve thinks I've lost my mind that I'm doing so many of these streams. He's like, "Are
No,
you
I,
doing a stream every night?"
I think if you enjoy it, you love, what you do, then yeah, you just, it's like anything in life, do what you love.
Mm-hmm.
And like I've told you before, you can see how much you love film, and it comes through the screen, when you're watching it, and when I'm watching you, and it's good, and you can see the passions there as well. You know, you,
I certainly get passionate sometimes. Well, Texas, it's been good having you in here. You say you got to run, but it was great as always. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Um,
yeah, have a good one, Tex,
Dirk is saying,
and Mrs. Tex.
oh, yes, and Mrs. Tex too. Dirk saying, I was going to say Lynch, but I don't think enough people are fans. I love David Lynch stuff. I could talk about David Lynch for days, but I'm kind of like Dirk. I don't know about everybody else, how they
See,
feel about
he's another director I need to brush up on because I haven't seen too much of his, but I've heard good things of most of his stuff. So yeah, if you actually think of directors, you got Kubrick as well, could be one. But I don't know who you'd put up against Kubrick. That's the only thing.
I mean,
Um,
a good pairing might be Kubrick versus Lynch or Lynch versus Kubrick because
yeah, that could work. Yeah,
Kubrick did some pretty off the wall stuff at some points, in his career. So I'm going to write that down as a possible one. You know, you might be surprised what people are going to like, or because I've said this before. I'm trying to not I want to do different things than everybody else is doing. Like,
Yeah,
some people just say, "Oh, we're going to do 1980s slashers." But when you said like New York slashers, that just kind of flips it a little bit,
yeah,
because you're not covering all the slashers. You're covering one core group of them.
yeah,
Um,
and that's definitely, I've never seen that done on YouTube before, so
I don't
that
think
would
I
be a really good one.
and there may be some versus streams out there, but I hadn't really seen any, and that's why I thought, why don't we just start with Argento versus Fulci, because somebody actually brought that up in the stream at one point, and I said that is an actual, a really good idea, um, because you can like both directors, but there's still a lot of room for conversation and friendly debate and all of that. And I really think that makes streams a little more interesting. If nobody feels like that they can contribute, if they're just sitting there in the chat and that's why I try to shut myself up at some points and let like you talk, or let the people talk more in the chat and all of that. Um, because have you ever sat and watched somebody, and I'm not making fun of anybody's streams, I'm not putting anybody down, but have you ever watched some of those streams where somebody literally just talks for 3 or 4 hours without any interaction from anybody else? The people in the chat, they don't have anybody else on there with them. It's either that, or you got two people, and I'm not gonna name any names. You've got two or three people who you can tell they are the biggest elitist group I've ever seen, and they think that they know more than anybody else in the room, sort of
Yeah,
thing. And they kind of take over. Um, so I really don't. I want my streams to be very different than that. I don't want to conduct a stream like that. So
yeah. The ideas though are limitless, really, if you think about it. Obviously being put on the spot here now, I can't really think of too much, but here comes me.
I
There's
put you on
loads.
the spot.
There's absolutely loads of ideas that people haven't done before. I'm sure we'll come up with stuff, and you'll come up with some good stuff. Down the line.
Trying to keep it fresh, trying to keep those ideas rolling around in my head. TJ said, I'm driving, so I couldn't chat. Well, yeah, definitely we want you to pay attention to your driving. um, Dirk, you say, I do like 80s versus 90s horror. They could go a while, lol. Well, yeah, it could, but I'm going to write it down.
Yeah, that could be interesting. Yeah, certainly certain films from both
Or
of those
he says,
decades.
or 70s versus 80s. Both of those would be good, I think.
So I think 70s is probably my favorite decade ever, if I have to be honest. I love the 80s as much as anyone, but 70s you've got so many classics like The
Oh my
Exorcist, Black
gosh, yes.
Christmas. Yeah, so many classics. The Omen.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Um, I do like the 60s as well. I know a lot of people, maybe don't go back that far, but
Um,
then you've got some good stuff.
the 60s with like horror and giallos and stuff like that, I'm not as fond of, but Darren will probably understand this when I say, or maybe you won't, but I've been a huge Beatles fan for years. For years. I love their music. And even though people might think that the films that they did, Hard Day's Night, Help, stuff like that, were a little hokey. I mean, I consider Hard Day's Night as good a film as any music type of films that have come out or came out around that time period. I love Hard Day's Night. I've actually I may have I've either got a Blu-ray or a 4K of a Hard Day's Night. And now I know when the Beatles got really heavy into drugs and stuff, when they made like Magical Mystery Tour, um, Magical Mystery Tour kind of went in certain directions that I was like, what? But uh, you got to take into account that they were probably doing some LSD at that point in time. And so things got kind of trippy. But I absolutely love A Hard Day's Night and I love Help. Darren, do you like those Beatles films? Are you even interested in them at all?
Yeah, I've seen them. I think I've seen them on UK TV and that. I was never a massive Beatles fan. I was always like when I was younger into heavy metal, and then
Mm,
I progressed onto like thrash metal and all that. But the Beatles was part, like my mother lived through that. Sadly passed away now, but she lived through all that. The
mm.
hysteria of the Beatles, they were absolutely massive here, as you know.
I bet
Um,
she had a lot of stories she could tell about that too.
oh yeah, yeah. What I like about the film Last Night in Soho takes you back to like the '60s in
Yeah.
London, something like that. And you've got all the, even though they don't play the Beatles, you got the music like Cilla Black and stuff like that. I thought that was a fantastic soundtrack. But
Oh,
to
yes.
capture that '60s is just, that's an era that I was born in 1971, so I can't remember the '60s. But I'd love to just live like a week through that, part of that decade,
Oh my
because it
gosh,
was a
yes.
magical time.
Yes, I always said that I feel like I was born in the wrong time period because I was born in 1976, and that was way past, the Beatles, all the Beatles stuff, Woodstock, the hippie movement, all of that stuff. And I just feel like I'm kind of like a fish out of water, that sometimes I feel like I should have been born in the time period when I could have grown up during the Beatles era, the Woodstock era, all of that, because I just love that. I love the music during that time period. I love the fashions, and people probably would laugh at me saying, "Good Lord, Dana, you like those those fashions from the mid to late '60s?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, of course I do." I even went through a period of time when I was still living with my parents where I would go out. I probably embarrassed my parents. I would go out in public with, granny dresses and other like hippie like stuff. I would wear peace sign necklaces. I mean, I was just totally into that world for a little bit.
Like flower power.
Yeah, exactly. Power power. Um, let's see what's Dirk saying in here now. He says, "Hell, I like all years. LOL. I watch shit from the 20s. Oh well, I will too. I mean, I've seen Nosferatu and stuff like that and enjoy it.
Oh yeah, some like 1930s films as well. Pretty
Mm.
good. You got Night of Terror, 1933. That's like an early slasher film. Basically, it's
I
like a
haven't
proto
seen
slasher.
that one. I should get that one or
Yeah,
try
that's
to
well
look.
worth a watch.
Um,
Um, I love all the old black and white stuff. I do. Like you've got the Black Cat from
oh,
1934 and stuff like that. So I'm always looking. And the good thing about YouTube is they're all on YouTube, because
exactly.
there's no copyright, with any of these films.
No. Dirk says you could do a horror host versus just throwing stuff out there. Oh
Yeah,
yeah, but
definitely.
I would definitely, I have to say, I'll say right off here, my favorite horror host, because of course I didn't grow up during the days of, I didn't know about Sammy Terry before Steve told me about him. I didn't even know who that guy was. Shamefully, I didn't know who he was. And I guess Chili Billy, I guess he would be considered a horror host too. I mean, I knew about Elvira and people like that, but I guess my favorite horror host would have to be Joe Bob Briggs. Um,
Yeah, for sure. We
just
never had any horror hosts in the UK, so I'm starting to watch. Obviously, I like Joe Bob. I watch all his stuff now, and the other stuff on YouTube is pretty good as well. There was
mhm.
one in the '60s called Vampira, I think.
Yes,
Do you
uh-huh.
know if she was English? I'm
I
thinking she
did
might have been
not I
English.
didn't I did not know that.
I might be wrong, Marty. She might have been American, but you see some old clips of her as well, even though they're really rare. They're worth watching.
I
Dirt
know
got
she
a good one up
was
there now, Commander USA. That's pretty
the
good.
Vampira, I think, was the one that wanted to sue Elvira for, like, stealing her
That's right, yeah. Yeah.
shtick or whatever you want.
There's a I know obviously she's passed away now, but there's a good interview in one of the Rue Morgues, one of her last ever interviews, which is a good read.
I think, Steve liked a little bit of, I mean, he watched Joe Bob when Joe Bob Briggs was on the movie channel and he had drive-in theater. I never got to watch that originally because I didn't know anything about it, but Steve has old VHS tapes, that have, drive-in theater on there, and I think now on YouTube, people have put clips from drive-in theater on, um and, I think he also liked the little Rhonda Shear on USA Up All Night, stuff like that. Um, but I guess I really didn't get into horror hosts that much except watching a little Elvira until I ran across Joe Bob on late night television. This was when he was doing Monster Vision on TNT. And I was just channel surfing one night and came across this guy, looked like a cowboy, was talking about horror movies. I was like, "Hey, this guy's really cool." And that was my first introduction to Joe Bob. Was just an accident. Um,
Oh, he's brilliant. When he got like the revival now with the show on Shudder is just superb. I don't think
yeah,
you can top that. I don't think anyone will be able to top, himself. And
not
Darcy as well. It's like it just works really well. The two of them, they sort of bounce off each other, and it comes across again. The love comes across.
oh, definitely. And I think that's probably pretty much. I'm not saying it's the only reason, but I think that's pretty much the reason why people continue to get Shutter. It's the big reason is Joe Bob, the last drive-in show, and Darcy, and even Ernie, the bearded dragon. I mean, I love the bearded dragon so much I named my pet bearded dragon Ernie. So
Yeah, I've got downloads of every show, every one of his shows. I think me and like Steve been sending me the download links, and
right.
yeah, I wouldn't part with any of those files because they're great. I need to put them on the disc actually, thinking about it, but they are really good.
And I've said this before. Like, if anybody is interested in joining the Lost Drive-In Patreon, Darcy has been doing a lot. I mean, she's broke open the vault. She's digging out all kinds of Joe Bob stuff from a variety of places. I think there's stuff in those vaults that Joe Bob didn't even know was still around or had forgotten about. And also, she is just so awesome. I mean, it's $35 a month, but you not only get all these clips that she puts on the Patreon page, but you get periodically you get Blu-rays from her, directly from her. that I guess she's put them together herself, or maybe she worked with Joe Bob to put them together. But um, the last Blu-ray I got was a Night of the Living Dead special, where
Nice,
you can
nice.
watch Night of the Living Dead, the black and white George Romero classic, but you also get to see the clips that Joe Bob did, and he interviewed some of the people involved in the original Night of the Living Dead, and he also interviews Tom Savini, who at the point in time that this was done, I think his version of Night of the Living Dead had just come out. So it's really cool. And she also has put together a couple of um, like Lost Drive-In Blu-rays where she's put a bunch of clips from drive-in theater, Monster Vision, all that kind of stuff. So it's really, really cool. Um, I'd highly
Yeah,
recommend.
and keep asking her for the interview, because if you can get her on here, I'm sure you would get a full,
Oh
load of
my
people
gosh.
on asking her questions, and it'd be awesome.
I've got to see if I can touch base with her again. And I know she's like super busy all the time, but I'm hoping that I can find a time period when things are a little bit slower, where I can get her on, because I really, really want to get her on here. And, hopefully maybe I can get, some other people that maybe aren't so busy. I'm not talking about like big time celebrities, but maybe I can connect up with some of these people from different horror movies that we loved. And I did want to bring up on here. I don't know if I've brought it up on any of the streams lately. But we did that watch along for Haunted Wing not very long ago. Well, I ended up, I didn't think I was going to hear from any of the people from Haunted Wing, because I had contacted several of them through Facebook a while back. I mean, it's been a long while, because I was interested in maybe doing a blood type fanzine special on Haunted Wing. And of course, now the director Doug Robertson has passed away, so I definitely can't interview him. But I was hoping to get some of the actors and actresses in the film. Um, and lo and behold, I was just sitting around a couple of weekends ago, maybe on a Sunday or something. Me and Steve were just sitting around watching movies and stuff, and I heard my phone ding. And I was like, oh, well, it's Wes or somebody messaging me. I pick up my phone, and it's Blake Pickett from Haunted Wing
That's awesome.
messaging me saying, "Oh, I am so sorry." She said, "I hardly ever look at my Facebook messages," and she noticed it. And she said, "If you're still interested in me doing an interview, I'd love to help you out." So I'm thinking about possibly doing an October special of maybe just a one off of the Blood Type fanzine, and definitely have her interview in
Do you
that.
think she would come on here like to do one, or just would be text?
Ah, I don't know. I maybe could ask her um, and see if she would be interested. I know she has a big photography career now. She actually has Blake Pickett Photography, um,
Right, right.
and but you
Another
know,
idea I was thinking is, would you like interview fellow YouTubers, or do like collab with different YouTubers?
um, I'm not going to say I wouldn't. Now, I'm not going to mention names, of course, again, because I don't want to make anybody upset. But Wes recently asked me if I would come on a stream with him and Aaron and one other person that I won't mention the name. And I told him, I said, I'll come on there with you guys or with anybody else, but not with this person. So I'm not going to say I'm not open to it because most people I would be glad to do that. It's just this particular person I wasn't too jazzed. Um,
There's some really, obviously with YouTube, there's some really good channels out there that I,
mhm, yes.
that even yourself, I don't think I've mentioned to yourself, but I could, one day we'll have a chat on the podcast or whatever, and I'll mention a few to you because there's
Okay.
some fantastic ones, and it would make for some good interviews and some good collabs and stuff. But
Oh, I have no doubt that they're out there, and that would be another way to get more content out there. You know,
do
more.
you ever watch anything by Visited by Voices One?
I don't think I have. I don't
So
think
you've
I
got Visited by Voices One, you've got Flesh Wound Features. They're fantastic as well.
have. Okay.
Like, Daniel Shine, he's really knowledgeable. I think he put myself to shame, like anyone really with horror trivia and stuff. Um, but they're all sort of part of this community with Pizzal, with Region Three,
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
and
The Region 3 stuff, yeah.
yeah, it's like yourself with Dead Pit and stuff. They're really good communities. Everyone looks after each other. You don't get many, trolls if any. So yeah, this may be something to think about.
I am going to put Uncle Bill's message up here. Hold on here. Now,
Oh, I can see his message now.
look, Dana, I'm starting to get upset. You've invited everyone in the world on here to co host, buddy. Hey, Uncle Bill, I have asked you more than once. Darren knows that I've asked you before. Um, and I'm sure other people in here know that I've asked you before. You can be on here anytime you want to. All you got to do is say the word. I mean that's what I've been doing with everybody else. I mean, old Curly Jaws wants to come on here. I say, all right, I'll send you the link. Darren wants to come on here. I say, I'll send you the link.
I tell you
Dirt,
what would be good.
anybody.
What would be really good is to get obviously the Dead Pit Boys on, because I think you can get 9 people on there, can you?
Yeah,
And maybe have
I can
go
have
on.
9 people and me on
So
here.
you could have nine guests, and you could have a subject, say like filmography of a certain director
Hmm.
or a certain subject, as in favorite zombie films, favorite slasher films, or even something completely different. I think that'd make for a good stream because you could have like a good two hour discussion on everything
Oh yeah.
and go to each person one by one. So
Yeah,
that would be a good
I would
idea.
love that. And like I say, Uncle Bill, I'd love to have you on, you and CK on. Like me and Darren were just saying, I can have 9 people on here with me. I mean, that's a lot of people. And I think it would be really fun to do that.
And some of the guys they do their stream, don't they, every month with the Patreon they do.
Hmm.
Guys like Anthony and people like that, they're
Oh
really
yeah.
not. I like that guy a lot. I think
Oh, I
yeah,
do too. And he's so nice. I mean, he's nice to
yeah,
everybody.
and
Uh,
he's really good. I'm not a massive fan of Resident Evil, but I watch his stuff.
you're right.
Just because he's so good. The way he's like a natural, like a sort of presenter.
And he's
Um,
somebody that's passionate
yeah,
about
yeah,
stuff too. He's passionate
yeah,
about
for sure.
Resident Evil. Uh, I gotta put Dirk's thing up here. He says, "You ain't special guy. Who in the fuck you think you are, bud?" Oh goodness. Dirk also says that the Arrow streaming site is great. Yeah, I'm gonna have to actually check that out soon. And
I'm not
TJ,
sure how much that would cost the Arrow site, but I pretty much got most of the Arrow stuff I watch anyway on Blu-ray, DVD. So
yeah, me too. And Steve would probably say, "What do you want to spend more money for, Dana?" You know. TJ saying Hogzilla, Hogzilla. Well, anybody that's watched Joe Bob show knows what that's a reference to. Um, they basically torture Joe Bob about that Hogzilla movie. But I'm probably gonna call it a night about 10 o'clock. Um, that way, uh, Darren won't fall asleep at the wheel or anything because it's
I don't
pretty.
drive, so you're all right.
Oh, okay. Um, well, so you can get your beauty sleep. Um, and I'm gonna have to get my beauty rest too. Um, so I
I
figure
had to
like,
come on tonight though because of the Argento and Fulci.
oh yeah, and I'll be glad to have you on here anytime. And I think Dirk is wanting to be, or I thought he was wanting to be on for the Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker watch along, which I'm perfectly
Yeah,
okay
you're
with
doing
that.
that an hour earlier as well, aren't you? Because Steve's not doing
Unless
his show.
unless Steve changes his mind, but right now he tells me he's taking the this coming Saturday off. So
Right, because
I'm
the like couple of hours earlier definitely benefit me a bit more. You
okay.
know,
So probably instead of doing it at 7 like I have been, I'll do it at 6. And I'll
yeah.
slide right into his time slot. Dirk says, "Hell yeah, I'm there." And he also says they show all the new releases, uh, though, and VS stuff. I'm assuming Vinegar Syndrome.
All right, I think it's pretty cheap as well. Arrow streaming.
Let's see. TJ says you got a good hype man with you here, Dana. Are you talking about you or Darren or somebody else? I got a lot of good people in here with me. It's mostly guys. I know I was talking to my mom one day on the phone and I was talking about, yeah, I got a pretty good group of, and I said guys because most of the time, unless Miss Tex is in here, um, it is mostly guys. And my mom was like, "You have all guys in there?" I'm like, "So?" I don't think of it in those terms. I just think of everybody as like fellow fans and friends and stuff like that. I don't think necessarily in terms of, well, how many males do I have in here? How many females? I don't ever think about it that way. I guess she would be uncomfortable if she was on a stream and there were just a bunch of guys in there. Um,
There are a lot more females into the genre now, I noticed, than
oh
there
yes,
was years ago.
definitely. But I always got along better with the boys than I did the girls. Growing up, I always wanted to, when it was time for recess or whatever, at school, I would be over there, playing with and I don't mean this a vulgar way. I mean playing games with the boys and stuff like that, rather than being with the girls.
And
Um,
I think I read once as well that, like, the old slasher films of the like 80s were targeted for the female audience. So yeah, it's quite surprising you don't get as many as male, because I'm sure you go to a lot of the conventions and there's probably 50-50, is it? I'm guessing, or 60-40 men.
yeah, something like that. Yeah, I mean, we just went to Horror Hound this past weekend, so um, boy, that speaking of Horror Hound, though, that place was packed. I think it was more packed than I've seen a convention be in a long time.
Yeah, I was well jealous that you got to meet Ian McCulloch.
Oh
Well,
man, if you ever get a chance to meet him, Darren, definitely go up and meet him because he was just so nice and you know didn't I I probably I wasn't going to, but I probably could have stood there for an hour and talked to the man, and I don't think he
yeah,
would have minded. But I just try not to do that. Um, it doesn't matter who I'm meeting. I try not to take up too much of their time because there are some people I see coming up to people's tables at all hours of the day at these conventions. And it's like, come on, people, they got to eat lunch at some point. I know when I met Angus Scrim, of course, poor Angus Scrim was pretty feeble when I met him. It was still awesome to get to meet him. I'm glad that I got to meet him when I did because the poor man's no longer with us. But right when I got up to his table, somebody brought him over lunch. And I was like mortified because I was like, oh, he's going to want to eat his lunch. And he's like, no, he's like, come over here and sit down. And, and he wanted to look at my sphere that I had that everybody else ended up signing. And I think only Don Coscarelli had signed it at that time. And he was like, oh, he's like, somebody else has already signed this. I said, yeah, I got Don Coscarelli to sign it at another convention. So, I mean, I don't think I've ever had a bad experience with anybody that I've met. Um, there have been a couple of underwhelming experiences, but not bad experiences.
Yeah, that's the trouble, isn't it? When you meet your heroes, sometimes, you
Unfortunately,
know.
yeah.
I was unlucky enough, really. I missed out on Dario Argento. We just recently did the con in Fright Fest in the UK.
Oh, yes.
Oh, I was so damn mad that I didn't really commit to go in, but hopefully he'll do another one. He's one that obviously is getting up in age now, isn't he? So hopefully one day him and Asia I'll meet. But there's not that many I would actually, go to meet, to be honest.
Well,
I
I
mean, a
told
lot of it's a big racket, isn't it? Money wise.
it is nowadays, and that's what I told Steve before we went to Horror Hound. I said, "Look," I said originally, I said I'm only going to get a picture taken with the people that I choose to go up and meet. Um, and if the picture's too high, I'm not doing it. I said I'm not getting any autographs. But Ian McCullough was so nice, and I thought this was a deal, actually. In the days when people were price gouging you all the time, I got the big, like, I guess 11 by 17 zombie, like, mini poster. And that did cost $50. But Ian McCullough did sign it. He did personalize it. And I got a picture for free,
Well, that's
essentially.
definitely a good deal. Yeah.
Yeah. And I couldn't turn that down, and it looked like most of the people that I saw, they usually give a cost breakdown at their table. You just have to look at their little signs they've got, and it looked like most of the people were going that route, whereas, a few years ago, a lot of people wouldn't let you get a free photo with them, even at their table and using your own phone. They wanted you to pay 10, 20, sometimes more than 20 extra dollars on top of what the autograph cost was
Well, that's
to,
crazy. That is.
yeah, to get a selfie, essentially. And so I don't know if there's been so much backlash because of that, is why people are backing off. Or, in Ian McCullough's case, I would imagine he probably thinks, well, who am I to ask somebody to pay, extra for he's got some sense. He he knows people's going to be coming up with their phones and wanting to take a picture. So, I think that he's being sensible about the whole entire thing. But I think Grant Kramer was the same way, and I really wanted to go up and meet him, but I was trying not to, like, go absolutely crazy buying all this stuff. And I'm hoping that I'll get to meet Grant Kramer at another convention at some point down the road.
Well, it's like you say, if you're getting value for your money, you don't mind paying it. But it's when, you got some of these big stars like Robert Englund, they're
Mm.
just absolutely cashing in on the fans, which is sad, very sad to see.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're getting something and you think, oh, that's a good deal, then yeah, great. But they're very few and far between.
So Dirk says John Carpenter got announced for Texas Frightmare next May. Now I already met John Carpenter, so he's off my bucket list. Um, and
Yeah, I've
TJ,
heard mixed things with Carpenter as well. If you catch him on a bad day, it's not good.
yeah, that's what I've heard, and I've heard that about Savini as well. But I actually had a good experience with John Carpenter when he was at Fright Night that year, and I actually took the plunge and went up and met Tom Savini. I don't know, a year or two ago, and Savini was Savini was a little reserved, but he wasn't hateful to me. He wasn't sarcastic. He didn't act like a dick or anything. But then I've heard some people say, "Oh, I had an awful experience with Savini." So I don't know if he was just in a bad mood those days or what. Uh, let's see. And TJ says PJ So's allowed free selfies with her at cons last couple of times I met her. Yeah, it's been a few years since I met PJ Souls, but she was really sweet, and I'm pretty sure we got a free picture with her. I think Steve and I both did.
Yeah, Felissa Rose is another one. You get value for
Oh,
money with her.
Felissa Rose, you got to meet that girl if she's ever at a convention that you're at. If you haven't met her, oh man, you're missing out. Such a very sweet person. Um,
I see. Where's his comment on?
yeah, he says I
No,
got a good deal.
nobody wants to see me at 3 a.m. But I will come on cam definitely in the future.
Dana, everybody's camera don't work. That does a show with you. Uh, what's up with that? Well, I don't. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I don't care if somebody wants to come on here audio only. Um, it it we can still interact. I mean, it's not that big of a deal to me. TJ says CK, they're incognito. Dirk says he's never met Carpenter. Hey, John. Oh, I hate it that you weren't able to come in here until just before I'm going to get off here. I already went 11 minutes past what I said I would. John says, I got the Lost Boys and Fog 4K pre ordered. I gave in. I got the Fog 4K in today, John, and I've got the Lost Boys on pre order. So it'll probably be coming in another week or so.
There's a lot of stuff coming out.
Oh my gosh, yes. John says, oh, you're good. Long ass day. Yeah, it was pretty long for me too. But I hate to, but with all of that being said, I think I am, as I always say at the end of these things, I'm going to skedaddle on out of here for the night and get my shower taken, have me something to eat, sit down. Maybe I can watch the rest of 4K of Friday the 13th. We've got 10 people up in here now. It's like I'm getting ready to get off of here and we got 10 people in here. But I want to thank Darren for being on the stream with me tonight. It's been another fun stream. Good
No
night.
problem. Anytime.
And like I said, anytime you want to be on, or anytime any of you other guys want to be on, you just let me know and I will send you the link. I don't care if we're an hour in and you want to be on there. Probably if I would say if old Curly Jaws, he's probably not interested in what I'm talking about tonight. Otherwise, he'd be up in here and asking to be on the stream, which I've had a good time for 2 nights with old Curly Jaws until his phone died and he wasn't on here anymore. But I'll have anybody on here. I don't. Well, maybe I shouldn't say anybody, but Wes will be hitting me up to get certain people on here. um, but most anybody I will have on here. I would not turn any of you guys down if you wanted to be on here. Um, so again, I thank everybody. I thank you, Darren. Anytime you have an open invitation, anytime you want to come on here. Um,
Thanks. Thanks.
and I look forward to Sunday. I mean, I'm sure I'll be talking to Dirk and Darren before Sunday, but I'm really looking forward to. I'm actually looking forward to rewatching Cemetery Man and talking about it because I think I said this the last show we did. The first time I watched Cemetery Man, I didn't care for it, so
Yeah,
maybe.
I'm the same. So I'm in the same boat. So hopefully I'll get to like it this time.
Oh, well, TJ, I can forgive you that. You're going to be seeing Fabio Frizzi live. So
Oh
I
wow,
can't compete with that. Me and my Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker watch along. That doesn't even compare with Fabio
that
Frizzi.
is awesome, TJ.
It is awesome. Um, Dirk says, take it easy, take it sleazy, take it any way you can. Yeah, deuces all. Uh, thanks, Dirk, for stopping by and hanging out
Yeah,
with us.
have a good one, Dirk.
And with that being said, I think I'm going to skedaddle on out of here and I'm going to see everyone on the flip side. So, everybody have a good night. Darren, you have a good night.
And you, Dana. Bye.
Bye bye.